So yesterday, there was lots of reports about Pochettino to Chelsea. And I made a little short video, which you can see on my YouTube, basically saying that if Poch went to Chelsea, for as far as I'm concerned, that's as bad as Campbell going to Arsenal, and that I hope he gets dog's abuse if he comes back to Tottenham. And it's got a little bit of a reaction from different people with obviously different views. And I've always said in my videos, or whenever I've said anything, that football's about opinions. It's one of the most emotive sports out there. Everyone's got a different view about lots of different stuff. So I want to be absolutely clear that that's just my opinion and my feeling. And that feeling, I guess, comes around due to the fact that, for me, since Birkinshaw, Pochettino is probably the only manager who really got me really back connected and believing in Tottenham and what we could achieve together and where we could go. So, you know, when they say when a marriage ends, there's a fine line between love and hate. And the reason why you hate your ex so much is because you once loved them. And I guess a little bit of that translates into this situation for me. And again, I'm talking about me personally. There is also an old saying, I hate Arsenal because I'm Tottenham. I hate Chelsea because I'm human. And I guess that's how I feel about it. And people have pointed out to me, oh yeah, but what about Hoddle? Hoddle was at Chelsea. And I agree with that to a certain extent. But what you have to remember is, I'm an older guy, and most of the people that watch these videos are older people. But growing up and watching Tottenham, Chelsea were never a rival. They were never someone we were bothered about. We'd fight them on the terraces and that kind of stuff. And we disliked them, but we never really saw them as a rival. And so, I mean, I can even remember going to the bridge and putting £1 in the bucket to save the bridge and that kind of stuff. That's where they were. That's where Chelsea were. And so I never really considered them a serious rival. Arsenal will always be the number one team for my hatred. And that's normal. But at the same time, over the last 20 odd years, that's changed. And that changed to a certain extent with Hoddle. For me, he probably started the revolution that made Abramovich buy him in the first place. Because if it wasn't for Hoddle taking, you know, Vialli and Hullet and players like that to Chelsea, they probably would never have started the move that they did. And Abramovich probably wouldn't have looked at it as a viable option. But that situation is way back before they were anywhere. They were anybody. So for me, Chelsea was a team that used to just take out players we didn't want anymore. You know, it wasn't a thing. Times have changed. My feelings towards Arsenal haven't changed, but my feelings towards Chelsea have. And the reason for that is because their fans, generally speaking, are insufferable. They hate us with a passion. I worked for a guy who said to me that when Potter went, they'd like to get Conte back. And the reason they'd like to get Conte back is so that he could come back to Chelsea, win the Champions League, just to piss off Tottenham fans, right? So that's how he feels about it. That's how much he hates Tottenham and is building this relationship between the two clubs that is like that. And so that's kind of where that frustration comes from. That's where that feeling comes from, and why I feel the way I do about Pochettino potentially going there. And on top of that is that I just have this horrible feeling that if he goes there, he'll be successful. And I don't want him to be successful at Chelsea. I don't want that. I want him to be successful at Tottenham. So I've always said, never go back, never go backwards, never go back to support, players and that. It's never any good the second time around and that. And I've felt like that with Pochettino. I've said in videos that I don't think it's the right thing for Pochettino to come back, and we should always be looking forward. But as it stands at the moment, with the club in such turmoil, I just can't see a better alternative than Conte, I was going to say then, than Pochettino coming back to Tottenham. I can't see a better alternative for Tottenham that's going to help rebuild the trust and the love and the connection between the players, the fans and the club. I don't see that anybody else is going to be able to do that as quickly. So for me, I don't see any other option. And for the people that have pointed out to me that it was Levy who sacked Pochettino, I know that, I get it. And for the people that are saying that Levy's known that he's available and could get him back at any minute, I know that as well. And I'm not saying anything from a positive perspective about Daniel Levy. I'm not saying that Daniel Levy's not at fault here, because I think he is at fault here. I think that he must know what this means. He must know where this needs to be going. He must know what the will of a lot of fans is. And it's fractious, right? I think all those fans that are saying, let's not go back to Poch, and Poch left us in a bad way and it wasn't great football towards the end of the... I get all of that as well. I absolutely get all that as well. But if they put their hand on their heart and look at it and answer the question, if Pochettino come back, would you support him? I can't see that there would be many that would say, no, I absolutely don't want this man back at any cost, and I would hate to see him coming back. Don't think there's any fans like that. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you guys see it differently. But in my head, I'm like, you might not want Pochettino back. He might not be your first option. You might want Nagelsmann, or you might want Arne Slot, or you might want Brendan Rodgers, God forbid, or whatever. But if he came back, you'd be happy, you'd support him, and you'd feel like, okay, maybe there's a plan, maybe there's an option somewhere. And I just feel like it's the best option at this moment in time. It may not work out. Like I said, I don't always feel that going the second time really is the right thing to do. But I look at what options are available, or what's around us and stuff, and I just can't see what's going to fix and knit this club back to where it needs to be. Because at this moment, we are just... I'm going to say we're in turmoil. Maybe we're not in turmoil. Maybe Daniel Levy and the board have a plan. Maybe they've already got their man. Maybe they've got it clear what they want to do. Maybe they're sorting out funds. I can't honestly believe that any business doesn't have a plan for the future. But in terms of turmoil, it's how it feels. I feel like we are in turmoil and in freefall, and someone needs to come in and pull it back together. And the idea of Pochettino going to Chelsea just kills that for me. It's how I feel. I don't want to see him standing there in Chelsea blue, picking up a Champions League or an FA Cup or, God forbid, the Premier League or any of that. I don't want to see it. I don't want to see someone that I respect massively go and be successful in a club like that. I just really don't. And I'm sorry if that offends anybody and that you think that I'm talking utter shit. I get it. You're entitled to your opinion as much as I'm entitled to mine. And I'm sorry if the state of my teeth offends you. It's the way it is. I'm an old man. It's going to happen. But anyway, listen. I've just been and had my hair cut. Nice fresh trim. to make myself feel a little bit better. So apologies for another video so quickly after the last one, but I just wanted to make it absolutely clear where I'm coming from, so people can understand why I feel the way I do. Maybe I've been a bit strong, maybe I'm over the top, but it's how I feel, and maybe that'll soften. Maybe that'll soften in time, but it's how I feel today, and I wanted to say how I felt today. So I'm going to leave it there, and I'll keep the faith. Up the Spurs.